Our guest this afternoon is Dr. John Cox, who's a candidate for state school superintendent running in the Democratic primary. And Dr. Cox is also currently the superintendent of PEGS School District up in northeastern Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
Good to have you, Dr. Cox.
Thank you.
We're going to just go through some real basic questions. We look forward to hearing your answers and in terms of what you would do as a superintendent and sort of your views on other things. But let me start off by asking you this. Share with us a little bit about your background in terms of education, obviously the certificates you hold as a superintendent and as a teacher, and kind of how you got into the field of education.
Okay. All right. Well, this is my 20th year as being a school superintendent, 28th year in education.
Wow.
And I know in high school I loved mathematics, loved basketball, so I knew I'd be a coach and math teacher. And so that's what I studied to be. And so 8 years later, I was asked to be a superintendent principal and just jumped right into that. And so my experience as a teacher at that time kind of led me into being a public school superintendent. And so it's one of those jumping into the fire things.
Yeah.
And so I've been really blessed to be at PEGS, and they've taken good care of me, and it's kind of like family.
Right.
And I think that's what our schools should be, is like family. My certifications as a teacher, I have all the secondary mathematics all the way up to calculus, and I have psychology and a school counselor, and then also computer science, and then I have principal and superintendent certification.
Great. You know, one of the greatest challenges, frustrations, at least that I see today among teachers, students, parents, administrators, is this whole area of high stakes testing. And the time we're spending in the classroom, the money we're spending on it.
Right, right.
Give us your view of that. Are we testing too much? And as a corollary, you might mention the new rules we have for third grade retention.
Okay.
And then I want to ask you about graduating seniors next.
Right, because that's really important.
Right.
We overtest, and there's no doubt about that. And we, even at my school and most schools I'm familiar with, we stopped teaching in January and actually test prep.
Yep.
And I view that as being wrong. We shouldn't do that, but to survive and to be able to pass the test, we have to start test prepping from that point on to be able to pass the test. So what I plan on doing myself when I become state superintendent is streamline the testing procedures, go back to math and reading, because those are the two essential elements to be successful in society. Just focus on that for accountability, and then allow teachers to go back to teaching again. And I think that's what, across the state, I think we're all frustrated. Teachers are frustrated because they cannot teach in their classroom. They can't love kids again and be able to hug them and work with them and treat them as individuals.
And the kids are uptight about the testing. I mean,
they absolutely are. The anxiety level's too high. I'm a firm believer that tests should only be used to improve instruction, not used for any punitive measures at all. Mm-hmm. And it's really a snapshot picture. So if you want to look at how well a child's doing, you need to look at the complete year, the complete portfolio of that child.
Right.
And so we really need to take another look at how we test and the reason. Because I think public schools do a great job, and we provide opportunity to kids. Now, I believe that's where that stops. I think that's where the student has to pick that opportunity up and take that. Now, we're responsible for motivation, but I think that is a family, a parent, teacher, school role for motivation.
Right.
And so I just believe that we provide the opportunity, and we allow students to be able to take that. It's really disheartening what we're doing to our most at-risk kids. Mm-hmm. And actually we're bringing in these so-called reforms in from out of state to be able to say that we're doing something. And just for the sake of saying we're doing something. And so what I plan on doing is going in and working to repeal that law, because I think that's just a bad piece of legislation. Because what it's doing and what business people are telling me is that we can't train students in high school to go directly into the workforce. Workforce development is such a big issue out there right now. And what I want to do is be able to take that 75%, approximately 75% of the students that will not finish college, and actually train them for a job that they're interested in high school. And by doing that and pulling their interest out, I think I think it creates a lot of things. One thing, it will keep dropouts down because students will want to stay in school to go to that mentorship program or to work in that area. And so I think we have to get back to asking us, what is our real purpose of having public school, having a high school? And to me, it's just to help students be successful later on.
Yeah, that's right. Now, there's been a lot of talk, a lot of bills filed this year about Common Core. In fact,
Right.
we were in the Senate Education Committee this week when the Speaker's bill was passed through the Senate Education Committee to do away with Common Core.
Right.
But talk to us a little bit about your views on Common Core. Are we headed down the wrong path with that, and what should we do?
Well, I heard the word toxic today used to describe Common Core. I would say it's more divisive, and because you have both factions on each side saying how good it is or how bad it is, and they're passionate about that. And so as a leader, you can't just go in and cram that down people's throats. So you have to figure out a way to really split the baby in half and make it something that can become ours. And what I plan on doing is bringing our teachers in like we did with the past electives,
Yep.
actually developing the curriculum for each grade level and each discipline, and using that as our objectives. And we're smart enough in Oklahoma. We have brilliant teachers in Oklahoma that can come together and actually look at national objectives, put us at the same level and degree of difficulty, and then but have our own.
Right.
And not just say they're Oklahoma academic standards, but actually say these are our teacher-developed objectives. And then if we're going to test for high stakes, we actually develop a test that fits what these teachers are developing in the objectives.
Right.
Because right now, as a teacher, we have no idea what's going to be on that test. And we should.
Yeah.
To have a great test, to really see what we learn, you should know what's going to be on that test.
I've wondered, as a state, can we afford Common Core? What is the price tag that might come along with that?
Well, my understanding is it's $35 million for the assessments itself, just for that this next year. And what are we getting out of it? That's what I said a while ago. We have to really look and see what we're getting. And I just don't think that we're putting the money in the appropriate place. Let's take that $35 million, for instance, put it back into the state aid formula and hire more teachers and more tutors and more teachers' assistants. Let's put it into people, into personnel, and use it that way. So, it's just it's really a struggle, and it really kind of hurts me in the heart right now on what we're doing with our money and how we're spending it.
Right.
And so let's just get back to putting it back in the classroom.
Yeah, that sounds good. Let me ask you about general question, but how are public schools in Oklahoma failing our students? You can narrow that down into certain areas, but what are we doing as a system that's really not in the best interest of our kids?
Okay. And originally when I looked at that, it was, to me, I perceived that as a question of how are public schools failing? And, actually public schools are doing a great job. And as I've gone across the state and listened to more and more success stories, for instance, I was at a Class B school this last week, and a proud parent in the community was explaining to me about their child being third in the class at OU.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, they got all the opportunity they had at that Class B school, and they provided that for him, and he was able to go on and excel. And so I think we need to start telling our successes instead of going negative and saying how bad we are. And that's really a different way to look at things, because I think people respond better to it. I think if you can really highlight the areas that they're good at, I think people try harder and work harder and are more motivated.
Right.
So, when it really comes to public schools failing, I think the reforms that we have on us right now are really hurting us. And we talked a little bit about the high school diploma. And that in itself is hurting a majority of kids coming through high school. Because one, they're not excited about being at high school, and they should be.
Right.
Just because someone in some room somewhere says you need to be proficient in Algebra 1 to be successful, I'm going all across the state seeing people who didn't take Algebra 1 and are highly successful. So I think we really need to get back to an individual education, looking at people as individuals,
Right.
and really working to see what we can do to help each one.
Dr. Cox, the last couple of years we've been under this system of A through F grading for school sites and also for school districts. Tell us what you think about that, and is that the wrong thing to be doing? And as a corollary to that, if we're going to have a system like that, what kind of consequences should there be if a school remains in a failing state?
Okay. Well, the way I view it, our public schools in Oklahoma are doing a great job. You know, we do need to improve in areas, and we always need to look to improve. I think that keeps us motivated. But it's going to be my message out there that our teachers are doing a great job across this state with their students. The A through F system, and through my experience with teaching research and statistics, you know, a basic element of that is if something is not, if it's not a tool that is valid or reliable, then you shouldn't use that tool for any type of measurement at all. And you know, and as you're aware, OSU and OU already said that tool was not a valid or reliable measurement. So it should not be used to judge a school no matter what. So I can't really look at a grade and say a grade of C is a grade of C, because we have no idea what that means.
Right.
And when I talk to parents out there, they don't really have an understanding of the grade card. They see their school got a D, and you know, and they don't like that, but they have no clue. And what I do is I tell parents and community members when I'm out there talking that if you made an A in mathematics and you made a C in reading, are you a B student? And you know, and they kind of look at me a little bit and they're wondering how to answer that question. Because what I say is, you're not a B student. You're really good at math and you need help in reading. And that is what our parents need to see if they're going to look at a grade card. So if it's still in law, when I'm in there, then I need to actually have a grade card that you can look at and say, our school does really good in the mathematics area, but we probably need to improve in the reading area. Mm-hmm. And so if we're going to have something, it needs to really look like it. And also on top of that, it needs to not be measured off of the most at-risk kids in your school.
Right.
It really needs to be a whole school approach, not off of a one-day test. You know, we really need to take it where a team who has experience in knowing what a good school looks like goes into your school, similar to NCATE with the universities, and research what we do overall with the student, and not based upon the test. So I don't give any credence to the A through F report card. It is what it is, and we have it.
Right.
And we just have to see how we can improve as a school.
Talk to us a little bit about teacher retirement, not so much the logistics of how it works, but
Right.
just as state superintendent, what would be your goals to see for teacher retirement, and address especially the notion of changing the plan, you know, for new teachers coming in.
Right. I think it'd be a mistake to change to a 401k plan.
Okay.
I love the system we have now with a board that oversees that system specifically for our group. I do not want a board that watches over 7 pensions and who takes our money and mingles them with others, if there is a chance of that. But I want one that just watches over ours. And going and talking to retired teachers groups, they're adamantly opposed to any changes. And also, you know, one thing that we've talked about is retention of teachers and recruiting teachers. I can't imagine coming in at 22 years old and saying you have to join this 401k plan. Because the first thing they're going to look at is, I'm not going to retire for 40 years.
I'm going to spend the money.
So, yeah, I'm not going to put it in there. I'm not going to put an adequate amount. And then you think after 62 on $35,000 a year and then putting a minimal amount in, are they going to have enough to last 10 years? And so, and then the ripple effect also of the money that would come in for retirees of right now. Where's that flow of money going to come from also? But to retain teachers, but mostly recruit teachers, I think you have to have a quality teachers retirement system and know that when they retire, they will have something they're waiting on them. So it's just really wrong to look at taking our pensions and turning them in. Well, if it's 2009 when they retired, they probably would have lost all their pension. And so I think we need to protect that, and I will be sitting on that board. So I expect to be one of the people that will be protecting what we have.
Okay, great. Talk to us a little bit about charter schools. Charter schools, of course, you know, are here to stay. They've been here for a while. But just kind of highlight the positives and the negatives as you see the issue of charter schools mixing in with public education.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question and really an important part of this election, because I think that separates me from another candidate. And I look at this position as being the state superintendent of public instruction, not the state superintendent of charter instruction. And I think we've been there, done that.
Yeah.
And I'm not very happy with what we've done. And I just cannot see with the reduced funding that we have how we can lose money to those directions, how other entities can take public school money and not even be accountable for what they're doing within their systems. But if we look at our kids across the state, approximately 95% of our kids go to public schools. So why are we putting so much attention in coming up with another avenue to draw money and then take care of children? What is so wrong with our public schools that those children can't be in our public school and work there? I think it goes, again, to draining our public schools into another entity, and we're left with the most at-risk kids. And then they can keep saying that we're bad schools. So charter schools, there's a place for them, and I believe that. But I just don't want to see money taken out of public schools' pockets to be put in there. And again, this position is for public state superintendent of public instruction.
Right. Well, as you know, Dr. Cox, teachers at charter schools sometimes aren't certified,
Right.
and they certainly are not evaluated under the TLE system as far as the same way public school teachers are. So what do you see that as a problem that we need to fix?
I do, because if they're going to take public money, they need to be accountable just as our public schools are for whatever they're doing. And you know, I really have a hard time with all the credentials that we have to go through, and then they can hire anybody they want. And so I think we need to get back to saying, if you want our public money, if you're going to be around, if charter schools are going to be around like you said, then you need to have the same standards that we have. Flexibility within the system, that's okay, if that's what they need, but I think the people that are teaching our kids need to be credentialed. And even though they might say they're highly qualified, I would really hope that they would have certification in the areas that they're teaching.
Right.
And even the people that run them have the certification and the training it is that they need to have to be over employees who teach our kids.
Right. Now, I'm going to ask you a question that we've asked every candidate that we've interviewed, but knowing that character is so important to teachers and students and politicians and anybody that's serving in the public, I want to ask you, have you ever been convicted of any type of a crime?
No, I haven't, and that's an interesting question, because I think it's so important to what we do. And you know, there's a certain level of being a role model to kids and to everybody. And so I think the person that comes into this really needs to have a clean background and really needs to come into it with people knowing that all eyes are on that person, which would be
Absolutely.
me. Oh yeah.
Dr. Cox, share with us a little bit about your vision for the State Department of Education, and if you're the new state superintendent, what changes would you like to make, or what would you like to see the State Department do maybe that they're not doing now?
Well, as a state superintendent, I think we should return back to a service organization. And I am a big local control proponent. I just absolutely believe that communities know what's best for their school. So I don't believe in micromanaging. I think that you hire good people and you're there to help them when they need help. And you're not looking over their shoulder all the time. And right now, frankly, that's what's happening in public schools. We have people looking over our shoulders all the time, micromanaging what we do. And so we need to get back to that local control and allow school boards to really be in control, whether it's high school diplomas or third grade retention, you know, and all, you know, those certain reforms that have been coming in and taking away. Really being there for communities and schools. And when they need help, we're there, and we can give guidance in areas. And also, we talked about Common Core, really bringing teachers in and empowering them again to actually help develop that curriculum we talked about. And I think once we do that, and that people can see they can give input and actually have a buy-in to what we're doing, I think we will see an automatic change in attitude and motivation across the state. And so it's really simple, but just being a service industry again and caring about people is extremely important. And I think that we can really get back on track quickly. that's what a lot of people talk to me about is how are you going to get this turned around when you get in there? I think people are ready to be treated right. I think they're ready to be told that, hey, you're doing a good job in that area and being supported. And I know they want to be accountable for what they're doing, but I think that we in public education are in the business because we want to help children. And it's not because of money or any other issue, but we want to make a difference in people's lives. And so as simple as that sounds, walking in the front door at the very beginning, it's just people will understand that I believe in what they're doing and I will give support. And so that's extremely important up front. And then also we have to look at how we provide that service. How can we make sure when someone calls us at the State Department that we can give them an answer? Because that's just not happening right now. So we need to have people that are not afraid to be able to say what they feel. And I just think, there are people out there and there's people within the system right now that really know their business, but they just can't help.
Yeah.
And so we just need to change the environment and, just take care of people again.
Right. Our guest is Dr. John Cox, who's a candidate for State Superintendent of Schools, running on the Democratic side and competing in a crowded Democratic primary. Dr. Cox, in closing, is there anything else that you would like to share with the viewers about yourself or about, your goals for the state? And I also would like you to tell our viewers how they can either get to your website or find out more information about you and your campaign.
Okay, as we go across the state, I think we have a genuine interest in what we're doing. And I think people know that I absolutely care about public schools. And that's the reason we're doing this. And really the reason I'm running, the basic reason is because I could not take it anymore on what's happening to us. And I knew I had to go out and fight for public schools, something that's given me a great life, something that's taken care of me. So I had to give back. So I think that's what I want people to know and know about me. The issue of charter schools that we talked about a while ago, I think it is so important to separate myself from a person who runs a charter school.
Right.
And, good or bad on that person, they're going to have a choice on what they want. Do they want charter versus charter in the general, or do they want a public school superintendent in there who knows, who's been in the trenches, and who's worked every day what they feel? And so I believe that's what people are ready for. They can get a hold of me, and they can look at me on the website at my Facebook, which is Elect Dr. John Cox.
Okay.
And also on my webpage, which is okeducation.us.
Okay.
And they're welcome to ask me any question they want to on Facebook, and I will not shy away from any question that they have. But I appreciate this opportunity. It's so important. This is the most important election for all of public school that I don't know that we've had in years.
Maybe in
years
state history, yeah.
Yeah, because, and what I said, and I'll finish with this, is that we're at the edge of a cliff. Are we going to allow them to push us over, or are we going to push them over the cliff? And that's exactly what's going to happen come November. So,
Yeah.
But thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for your time and coming in to see us, and good luck to you as this campaign heats up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.